President Margolis, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Grant. We need to modify the agenda. Can I have a motion to add to the new business a vote for a new treasurer? Can I have that motion? Is there someone that'll move?
This is Manny. I move that we amend the agenda.
Okay, and there's a second from Juanita. We need a 2/3 vote. Since we've got everybody with, oh no, Brian doesn't have a camera on. Okay, Brian, will you vote, please?
Wait, excuse me, Sue. Do we need to vote on taking something off the agenda as well?
Well, we'll first put something on and then we can take off, okay?
All right, I just want to make sure, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody who's for it, raise their hand. And Brian, you need to give me a voice vote.
Sue, I think Brian, is here, okay.
Okay, Brian, what'd you say? Yes? Okay, so it passed unanimously. Now we have a second thing we need to do.
Where is it going, Sue?
It's going on new business 12D. Oh, let's do it 12A and move the other stuff down, okay? All right. We're going to remove.
It's a recess. Am I doing it wrong?
What?
You're in the wrong. Recess.
No, you're in the wrong agenda. Fine. We'll put the right agenda up in a minute. Okay. Elsie, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to, Madam Chair, I'd like to remove item 12C, review the procedure for requesting documents, and I'd like to move it from 12C, new business, under, I had it all marked. I want to put it under, number 15, future agenda items, please.
Is there a second? Juanita seconded. We need a raise of hands if that's okay with everybody. Brian, verbal. I can't hear you, Brian.
Yes.
Andre, you haven't raised your hand. Is that okay? Thank you. It's a unanimous, so I don't have to worry about the 2/3 vote. Is there any other changes?
Yes, I do. I have one, Sue, too.
Okay.
Okay, I have, and I'm sure I'm going to get pushback on this, but under 10A, consent calendar, the receive and file updated United Landscape Maintenance Manual, okay, this is supposed to be a revision. There's no rev bars or anything in it, and we're just going to basically rubber stamp this thing in a consent calendar. I think it needs to be moved out of the consent calendar and under new business, because right now it just sits there and there's no rev bars and it's supposedly a revision. I have no idea what got revised in that thing. So if we're gonna take the time to consent and approve it, then we should at least know what got changed. And putting in the consent calendar is just a matter of business as usual. Don't have a problem if we review it, but it should go under new business, I believe.
Can I comment, Sue?
What? Go ahead, Manny, but I don't see it even on the agenda.
Yeah, it's there.
It's 15. It's 10A3.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, 10A3.
Oh, it's in the middle there. Okay.
I understand what you're asking for, but it's just a bunch of busy work. Believe me, the one that's on the website right now, when you go through all the processes trying to discover the manual,
okay,
identify the third.
We'll move it to new business.
We clean this up. Okay, that's just busy work. Believe me, you're gonna have it go back down, have somebody go through and remark it. It's not going to accomplish a thing. Believe me.
But it's a matter of trust me, and you don't want to trust anybody, so I don't trust anybody.
Okay, let's go ahead. And Carl has made the motion to remove.
I don't believe you on that, Carl.
Manny, quiet. Carl has made a motion to remove 10A3 and to put it on 12D. Is there a second for that motion? Hey, Brian?
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so Elsie and Netta are against it. Everyone else is for it.
Manny's against it too.
Okay, Manny's against it too. What about you, Elsie?
I just abstain. You still got enough votes, right, for one way or the other?
Yeah, I've got to have your vote. Which way do you go? Abstain, okay. Netta, what did you vote? Up, okay.
I'm going for abstain too.
Okay, so there is one abstention, one negative, and the rest are positive, so a 2/3 vote has been taken care of.
Okay,
All right.
I have one other thing.
Two abstains, me and Neda.
No, Netta said 4. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
No, so I'm with Elsie.
Oh, okay. 2 abstains, 1 negative, and we're okay. Okay. Carl, go ahead.
10C. Every time we go through this, and there's been a number of issues that Director Armendariz has brought up this month, okay, whereby he will have to, and maybe I will have to vote no on this particular consent calendar because of item number C. I'd like to move that out also into new business or unfinished business or someplace else, so that, because there's a lot of good things under the consent calendar that we'd like to vote for and maybe even get a unanimous vote for. But item C is going to be a sticky wicket. And this month there was a number of issues that came up that may actually cause some of us to vote no on this particular thing.
Okay.
So under the circumstances, I'd like to.
Move it to 11B. Is there a second for that motion? Manny?
Excuse me, Sue, I put my name in the chat box. I'd like to remark.
Okay.
There
Well,
are a number
first
of,
we have to have a second. We got a second from Elsie. Now you can remark.
I requested this many times to move this item. Okay, and everybody refused. And all of a sudden, Carl jumps on the bandwagon, and he gets it done.
It's not done yet.
I've asked for that's a number.
vote. 2/3. 2/3.
Hey, let's
Not
vote
done.
no.
Congratulations, Manny, you got your wish.
All right. So we're going to put the receive and file on 11B. And I need a vote now. Raise your hands, please, if you're voting for it. To move it.
To move 11C, 10C.
11B.
Oh, move 10C to 11B.
Right. Okay, Juanita, are you? No, okay. Let's see, Brian? Give me a voice vote, please. Anthony, was your hand up? Okay. Brian, can I have a voice vote? All right. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Netta, what's your vote? 5,
Yes.
6.
Can you guys hear me or see me? I'm having
No,
technical problem.
Okay, so you're 99-30? Yes, okay. How do you vote on this? Do you have a vote, Cash?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got 2/3 vote. We're moving onward. Okay.
Hey, excuse me, Sue, could you give me a count on that? I want to count
Okay.
on all the yeses. Names and, no.
Cash, yes. Elsie? Yes. Netta? Raise your
Yes.
hand.
Yes, yes.
Manuel,
No,
you don't want it moved.
no, it's fine, I don't,
Brian?
You're taking it very personal.
Anthony?
Abstain. Yeah.
Carl?
Yes.
Juanita? No. Andre? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 yeses, 1 no vote, and 1 abstention, and 1 person not here today. Okay? Thank you. So we're now going to move on to the approval of is there any other changes? Okay. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes for the open session June 9th. Anything, can I have a motion to approve those minutes? I make that motion. Is there a second? Andre seconded it. Is there any discussion? No discussion, then we move forward. Approval of June 17th special open meeting. Cass, you're going to need to speak up if you have any problems, please, or put something.
Yes, I do have problems. I cannot see myself, period, but I hope you're hearing me.
We are definitely hearing you, and please put
Let's leave it at that.
put something in the chat box for a vote if you need it, okay?
Okay, thank you.
June 17th, do I have a motion to accept the minutes from June 17th? I so move.
I'll second it.
Second. Okay. Is there any discussion on that? Okay. So we're ready for the report for the chair, and unfortunately, I have a fairly long one today. On Monday, the number of COVID-19 cases here in the village has once again increased to 32. If you look at our situation, we have more than 18,000 residents in an area less than 3 miles. So we're a dense population.
You broke out. How many do we have in the village now?
We're guessing about 18,000 people. This is not the count
I
of
mean, the COVID
32 people have.
Whoa. I did not know that.
Okay, so we are a dense population of over 6,000 people per square mile. So we're averaging 11 affected people per square mile, increasing at a rate of 1 COVID case per square mile. And of course, the number could increase exponentially. This we need to stop. At the moment, as we walk through our neighborhoods, we may be encountering 1 asymptomatic person, because it takes 4 days to become symptomatic most of the time, and 1 new symptomatic resident a day. Obviously, this requires special precautions for all of us. Wearing a mask helps limit the spread of the virus in an obvious way. The mask impedes the spread of flow of our warm, wet breath. This is clearly a courtesy we should offer to whom we may encounter who are at all close. If you do come down with COVID, please self-report so we can do contact tracing. Alarmed by the current statewide flare-up, our governor issued a mandate order June 18th requiring masks so that we should not fall into the nightmarish situation faced by medical workers in Texas, Houston, and Arizona. Our residence boards, United, 3rd, and 50, are working on an agreement to make our residents aware that we meant the rule for all and that it needed teeth. So we have mandated the issuance of fines. I realize this is an inconvenience that we are imposing on you, but the fines are much lower than other nearby municipalities, and the plan is that the money will go to the Laguna Woods Foundation to help our residents who suddenly face problems because of COVID. We are trying to be socially responsible, not trying to make a few bucks. Some suggestions in order to remember to wear your mask when you go out. I hang my mask on the doorknob. so it's handy when the doorbell rings or when I go out. Be responsible, obey the rule, and save someone's life. If you don't like rules and you don't join the board and become a director, welcome aboard. Applications will be taken July 31st for a November 10th election. The requirements are regularly attend all scheduled meetings. It may be 10 to 30 hours a week. Regularly attend and participated in assigned committees. Be educated, informed, and complete sufficient research in advance of the meetings. Responsible for legal oversight, maintain fiduciary responsibility, and overall management of business decisions. We'd love to have applications entered. Thank you. That is the president's report. So we have an open forum. Becky, do we have any letters from people?
Madam President and esteemed members of the board, we do have some comments. We have 3 comments for open forum and 2 for another agenda item.
Okay, please go ahead now.
Okay. The one comment is from Cynthia Schaefer. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That one's for another agenda item. John Beckett, 364Q. And he writes, my wife and I belong to the over 65 age group. Were the ones most likely to die from COVID-19. Some of the people who visit Laguna Woods Village and some of the people who live here are flaunting Governor Newsom's order to wear face coverings in public. We're proud of the way our United directors responded to this challenge. Joining forces with the boards of Third and the Towers, the United Board voted to adopt an emergency order. Now residents who refuse to wear face masks can be hit with a fine up to $250, and visitors without masks can be turned away at the gate. My wife and I are proud of the volunteers who serve on the United Mutual Board. Your prompt, decisive action might have saved our lives. That is all on that one. Next one, Winnie Rice, 70D as in David. I want to thank you all for all you do for us residents and for mandating that we wear masks while outside our homes and practice social distancing of at least 6 feet away from another person. There has been such a spread of the COVID-19 disease that I believe it is vital that we take the precautions you've taken and ask us to take. Again, I appreciate all you do for us. Thank you. Maxine McIntosh, 68C. I am very, very grateful for how carefully our United Mutual and all the boards are working to protect our members as much as possible from COVID-19. Please ignore the nasty comments some village members spat out in the Globe letters to the editor. I know that striking out at volunteer board members with brash rudeness is often characteristic of people who are terribly unhappy with themselves. It is a real challenge for our board members to participate in virtual meetings like this. I understand that some of you had to buy new computers as current ones provide inadequate. If you want a copy of the agenda on which you can make important notations, you must print them off using much of your ink and paper. You have just a half hour in which to make your lunch and eat before the afternoon long session begins. May I make a suggestion? Have staff print and deliver those agendas to each of you. Have the restaurant on the golf course deliver lunches to each of you. Some of my neighbors and I have received their at-home deliveries. They are very dependable. During one of my terms on United, security officers had delivered our agendas when we were at many closed session meetings to attend in a short period of time. They dropped them off during their regular scheduled cul-de-sac drive-thrus. I would hope that many of us would find ways to show our gratitude for the 11 volunteers who determined to do the best they can for all of us, regardless of many limitations. Maxine McIntosh. Here's another one, Sally Thunder House, and 5800. And I have to open up an attachment. I wish to commend the United Board for passing the COVID-19 emergency resolution. It is extremely unfortunate it was not passed by the GRF Board because now we have a controversy within our community. I was disturbed by some comments made during the July 7th GRF meeting and disappointed Stephanie Brown was not silenced after a maximum of 2 to 3 minutes comment time. Members watching the meeting may have thought she had expert standing to speak for 6 minutes on the subject. None of us like wearing masks or taking the other precautions now a part of our daily lives. But the numbers don't lie. Our cases in the village have now doubled since you passed your resolution. Your actions will save lives and possibly money wasted on lawsuits brought by families of people who lost loved ones because of the thoughtless actions of others in our community who refuse to comply and complain about penalties. Unfortunately, thanks to GRS refusal, VMS staff will need to try to enforce rules being broken by hostile players, and the rest of us will have to listen to uniformed, biased people argue with us about precautions that are infinitely easier than spending 17 days on a ventilator followed by dying alone. Bravo to you all. That is all.
Thank you. I think we have moved on. Netta, would you give us the responses to the last, I think there were 2 responses.
We have 4 residents commented and we have 3 responses.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, 4 residents commented in the open meeting and none of them is required follow-up by staff. Resident 789N requested reduced HOA fees used to COVID-19 amenity closures. President Margolis explained that costs necessary to maintain the village are fixed, regardless of whether the facility or amenities are closed, including, among other things, insurance and payroll. There will be no decrease or proration of assessment as a result of this emergency. State regulation and case law support this position. President Margolis encouraged United residents to refer to page 61 of the June-July edition of the Village Brief for the graphic that shows how the monthly assessment is spent. Fixed costs are evident. Resident 2012D commented about the United summary financial statement as of December 31, 2019, and the net operating loss and asked what the board is doing to address this. Treasurer Gilmore explained the financial statement at the June board meeting. Additionally, on June 8, 2020, Betty Parker, Chief Financial Officer, emailed Mr. Holland a detailed response to his concern, explaining that the limited annual view contained in the statement of operation from the audited financial as of December 31, 2019 doesn't show the nature of HOA's long-term reserves plan. Resident 153A expressed concern about the asbestos testing requirement before replacing the heat pump with more efficient mini splits. CEO Parker explained that the testing is required by law and also required by the mutual per resolution 01-12-134. CEO Parker also indicated that it is common in this circumstance for the HVAC contractor to hire a certified asbestos contractor to perform the cuts and encapsulate them, so that the HVAC contractor can then perform its install, as it should be a less expensive route to take. Resident 68C, Ms. McIntosh, expressed appreciation for being able to exchange magazine and other items in laundry room. Thank you. Finish.
Thank you very much, Netta.
You're welcome.
We'll go on to Cynthia Rupert. Would you turn your camera on, Cynthia, please, and give us the VMS report update?
Good morning. Oh, sorry. Morning.
Good
Can you hear
morning.
me?
Turn your camera on, please.
Oh, I thought it was. Sorry. Morning. I thought it was on. Oh, look, how pretty. Good morning, everybody. This is my update to United from VMS. And the first thing I really wanted to start with, we have a telecommuting policy in place. If we can go to slide 1 or slide 2, I guess. What we did is we started an actual document, and that has to be signed by the employees, and it is to set up guidelines for some working at home, some working in the office. We are trying to keep some flexibility because of the COVID-19 situation. This is a mutual agreement. Some, again, will be working at home. It is not a required document. They may decline, and it does not affect their employee status. We are going to hold them to the same expectations as anybody else, whether they're working from home or here personally. I'm sorry? Did someone talk to me? Hello?
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard somebody. Okay, so if you'll go to the next slide, Grant, we have a couple of different situations, and we want management to really advise and make sure that all of our employees understand what the requirements are. Management's going to identify what jobs can actually be done through telecommunication, because we want to make sure we have real productivity. Again, doesn't matter where they're coming from. We want to make sure we have efficient customer service. We want to make sure they're cross-trained so that if we have a staff member that is not able to perform a particular job, that someone else can step in and take care of that remotely. Because if something happens to an employee or they have to quarantine, we don't want to have a gap. We want things to just flow easily. We want to make sure that everybody is treated equally, regardless of what their status is, where they're working. We are also going to set up measurable deadlines and expectations to make sure that performance is on par and that there is no deficiency in their performance. Next slide, please. So it's on the first 3 months, it's a trial basis. It can be discontinued, and you guys can read most of this at any time. We are requiring that at the end of the trial period, the agreement can be extended if we need to for another 9 months, but the maximum term is going to be 12 months. The other condition is that telecommuters must use their own equipment. We're not going to be responsible for their equipment, their internet, their phone, anything that they use. That's on them. Next slide, please. Okay, so basically the company, we can perform any safety assessment that we need to set up the worksite guidelines. We can make sure lighting is correct, space. We've redone some of the physical locations within the, what do we call that thing, community center. But we want to make sure that the guidelines are set up to protect against fire, against security, against anything that is ours, any of our own data. We want to make sure everything is safeguarded. The workspace is an extension of our office space. So again, it has to be on par with what the requirements are. If there's a failure to comply with any of these policies or participation, and if any of our information, company information, is used inappropriately, it could result in consequences of termination. Okay. The next thing, if you can, any questions on that so far? Okay. Next slide, please. We have developed some CDC guidelines, following the CDC guidelines to test and make sure that employees coming in are maintained, as well as checked for the 100.4 temperature limit. So we have set up the guidelines, and you can go to the next slide. So the temperature check is going to be done at the kiosk, but before they exit their car, they're required to put a mask on. They are all going to report to the rear entrance. And then from there, they go to a screening location, which again, as I said, is the front kiosk. There, a security person will record the employee information. They'll do a temperature check, and they're going to maintain this check on each employee every time they come in. Also, staff at that kiosk is required to make sure there is a 6-foot distancing, and the staff will also be required to go home if their temperature is over the 100.4 degree temperature that the CDC has set. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay. Unfortunately, and this is totally my fault, the actual data doesn't match the headlines, the labels, and that was a problem between myself and Elise. I was trying to find certain information and get it to her, but I couldn't find everything I wanted. So even though this says KPI complete, okay, this one's okay. United Mutual, there were no projects that were due or completed in June. And then there are some projects that were voted on to go forward, but most projects are on hold. So if we can go to the next slide, you'll see it's labeled customer service ticket completion. That was my intent. However, I sent the wrong information to Elise. So what you're looking at here is basically a list of United Mutual projects and whether they are on hold or whether they're going to be completed. The main thing I focused on here were those that need to be completed this year. For example, building structures. There's quite a bit still left to be done on that. Cul-de-sac, signage. It's actually started, but we don't have any expenditure logged for it yet. And so you'll see here also we have some on hold, excuse me, and then the walkway lighting has been started. Again, a little bit, but there's quite a bit more to do. Okay, next slide, please. You'll see these are just a list of your requests. And again, gutters have been started, but they're not completed. There's a lot to do. Painting is on hold. Anything need to be done prior to painting, any getting it ready is on hold. The balcony and breezeway resurfacing is on hold. Next slide, please. Okay, now on this page, we have a few that are in progress and should be completed very soon. The Parkway concrete program is due to be done in August next month. But as you'll notice, there's quite a bit of expenditure to be completed. So we'll just have to see if you guys keep that online. The asphalt paving is supposed to be done in October. Again, a lot to be done there. The coating program to seal and coat the asphalt is due to be done in September. Obviously, a lot of work to be done there. Roofing, emergency repairs, etc. Supposed to be done December. Quite a bit has been done there, but again, it should be completed in December. We'll wait and see. The roofing program, it's supposed to be completed in October, but there has not been real progress on that as to date. Shepherd's Crook installation, again, to be done by December. we'll see when that gets started and when we get postings on progress. The last slide about this, again, not customer service ticket completion. We have, if you can change the slide, please. We have the epoxy on hold, the water lines, the copper remediation on hold, pest control. It's done every year, and this year should be completed in December. It's been started, but there's, again, a lot to do. Foundation, it's actually been canceled, so I'm not sure if there's something there that I haven't been informed of regarding the expenditure being very low and whether there's going to be any expenditure there or not. Okay, next slide, please. Again, my screw up. This is supposed to be the following slides are supposed to be the United Mutual budget versus actual. It actually is a little different than what I anticipated. So what we came up with as a result is the financial results versus the budget as of May 31st. And the main thing I want to focus on is that the following centers, unfortunately, didn't fall within our budget. Media and communications, because of COVID-19, we had an increase in resident communications. IT, information, upgrading the equipment is going on, but a lot of it's remotely. We did get the phone system upgraded, so that's a good step to improve customer service. But again, our budget was exceeded, and financial services also. Due to the increase in insurance coverages, we didn't fall within our budget. Okay, if you can go to the next slide, please. This is kind of the results, what I was talking about. This is all units, not just United Mutual, but you'll see if you drop down to media and communications, we did go over budget, $24,000. If you look at information services, again, we did not fall within the budget range. And if you look at financial services, same situation. Again, all of these are related to COVID-19, the increase in telecommuting, communications with our members, and insurance costs. We have had to pay for insurance for several employees that are furloughed, et cetera. Next slide, please. This will focus on United Mutual and you particularly. Again, everything fell in nicely except media and communications, information services, and financial services. Again, COVID related. If there's any questions, otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you, Cynthia. Are there any questions? Okay.
There will be. May I say one thing?
I have a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You said about the temperature control check.
Yes.
When I go in and out of the main building, maybe we should have somebody there because people walk in and out in the middle of the day as well, and there's no check. And they could, when they go out to lunch and come back, maybe they bring virus. Maybe we should have.
Anytime
some
anytime they come in the building, they are checked. It's not just one time.
Well, when I walk in and out to go to the director's room, nobody's checking me. So I was kind of wondering if some other employee comes in late, is he checked?
Siobhan, would you please comment on that?
Yes, anytime an employee comes in the building, they have a temperature check. This went into place last week. Perhaps you came before it was implemented, Cash.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it my chance?
Yep.
Okay. I've got a question about your KPIs on the customer service side. I know you don't have too much detail in there. I would like to distinguish the two kinds of work requests. One is maintenance work request or new addition, remodeling, that kind of request. That's resident initiated. There's nothing to do with us. There's another kind of request that's the complaint requests. Okay, so they've been asking this so many times and that kind of information. And as a result, in more work for our staff. I would like to know what are the statistics on those complaint requests. Those complaint requests we can improve if we want to, and that will increase our customer service satisfaction and reduce customer service costs. So if we can separate those two kinds of requests, that will definitely improve our customer service and pay attention to that. Okay. Second would be the employee wearing face masks. I've received a lot of requests, question from residents that employees don't wear face masks on the field. Well, they don't see people at home, okay, or in the office, so they only see employees working on the field. Many of them complain that residents are not wearing face masks, including the securities. I want to know what is the statistics on that? How do we make sure that employees are wearing face masks? Those are the two questions I have for the time being. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff, do you want to talk about the face mask, please?
I will. So the protocol for all our employees is while they're in work mode, they are required to wear masks. If an individual resident happens to see an employee not wearing a mask, we need to have that reported directly to our HR department. And our HR department will take appropriate action with regards to notifying our management, and our management will pull that employee aside. They can be reprimanded. They will be given notice if it happens again. Certainly there will be a reprimandation relative to not wearing a face mask. With regards to contractors, we certainly have a little bit bigger challenge, but with now the resolution that United passed, we're asking for anybody coming in the gate that they show us that they have a mask, and they know by giving out a flyer that they're required to wear a mask when they're going to and from the manor. Once inside a manor, they're not required to, because that's inside somebody's personal property. With regards to Andre's question that may be occurring, and I don't know because I haven't received direct complaints. So Andre, again, when you have a resident call you, make sure they call directly to HR so that we can investigate. The situation we do have is that we do have employees who are out in the field that take a break or have a lunch break, and during the time that they're eating lunch, obviously they can remove the mask while they're doing that. Somebody drives by and sees somebody without a mask during their lunch break, that is possible too. But I will assure you that as far as my managers go and my department heads go, we all know that our employees are mandatorily required to wear masks in all our operations. And I wanted to mention a couple of things that was brought up under Cynthia's presentation. We're also doing temperature checks at all of our facilities with regards to all of our employees, not just the community center. That's been set up with activities out there in the yard as well. So I want to make sure that we're watching things from that perspective. And then secondly, one of the reasons there was an additional cost in the media and communications is we broke that out as a separate budget this year. So that some of those costs used to be in the CEO's office. Now they're showing up in media communications. So that's another reason why there's an expense there that there wasn't before. So just wanted to make that clarification.
Okay, Andre, just a quick one, please.
So I just want to follow up. What's the situation? I was recommending there may be two kinds of work requests. One kind is initiated by the residents that nothing to do with VMS, so you cannot reduce that. The other kind would be the recurring complaints about these issues that they didn't get a response, that things didn't get done right. That kind of a request need to be studied and see how we can reduce that kind of request, because that's increasing our staff work.
I think they've heard you, Andre. They're going to take a look at that. We will get a response later. Thank you, Andre.
Can't hear you, Sue.
Let's move on. I'm sorry. I keep muting myself. We have Laura Young from the Vector Control, who's going to give us a talk about a presentation on mosquitoes. So Laura, would you like to go ahead, please?
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's nice seeing you, even though it's virtually. And so I just wanted to give you an update on what's going on countywide, and especially focusing on Laguna Woods as far as mosquitoes in the community. I do have a presentation, but I can also talk if that's not available. And I think that's
Is your presentation available?
Yes, one moment.
And I will try to keep it brief. I can talk about mosquitoes for hours, but I don't want to keep you guys here that long. So if you can go to the next slide. So I am with the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District, and we are a special district. We were founded in 1947 as a mosquito abatement district as people were coming back from other countries that had mosquito-borne disease, and we have the mosquitoes here. So that's when the district was founded. We do provide service to all of Orange County and all cities and unincorporated areas, and our control and our services are provided for mosquitoes, rats, red imported fire ants, and flies. So we are a multiple vector agency. In the summer, we really focus on mosquitoes because those are the populations that go up due to the heat. And if we can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to give you a brief overview that mosquito control is slightly complicated in the fact there are multiple sources and there are a variety of different mosquitoes in Orange County. There's about 27 different mosquitoes that call Orange County their home now, and they live in different sources ranging from wetlands and marshes to large sources like best management practices or city infrastructure to unmaintained pools and spas and fountains, and then drains and other city infrastructures. We're really going to focus on those backyard and small sources because that's the one that we're asking residents to be an active part in. And it's really important to stress that mosquito control is a shared responsibility, and we need both you as leaders in your community to convey these messages to your residents, as well as let us know about these large sources that may be breeding mosquitoes. So if we can go to the next slide. On two types of mosquitoes today. But first, let me tell you a little bit about what we do. Now, this has slightly changed due to COVID, but we have tried to maintain as many services as we can. And so what our goal is as far as communications is to teach residents how to find local sources on their property and remove those sources and how to protect themselves from bites from mosquitoes. On a broader spectrum, we also do mosquito surveillance. So we have traps out throughout the county. We set about 100 traps per week throughout the county to, one, find the number of mosquitoes, so how many mosquitoes are in a local area, and then as well as to find out if those mosquitoes are carrying any diseases. And then the third aspect of what we do is our control program. So we control for mosquitoes by removing sources when possible, providing mosquito fish for static sources like fountains or pools that are out of service, or even some waterways that we could place mosquito fish in, and they eat the mosquito larvae, and then conducting chemical control. Now, when you hear chemical control, most people think about adult mosquito control, but 90% of our work is done in the water source and controlling for the mosquitoes before they hatch out into adults and can bite. Now, going to the next slide. So the two mosquitoes I really want to focus on that are going to be impacting all of Orange County, that are really impacting your communities, are the Culex mosquito and the Aedes mosquito. They look slightly different, but I always tell people you don't really need to know what a mosquito, what color the mosquito is. If you think it's a mosquito, you should kill it. But there are slight differences in how they breed and how they act. So the Culex mosquito is a mosquito we've had for many years here, and is also known as the southern house mosquito or the West Nile virus mosquito. This is the mosquito that typically transmits West Nile virus. It likes to breed in larger sources, so we're talking about larger waterways, fountains, gutters, things like that, and drains, city infrastructures. It also prefers to bite during dusk and dawn, and really prefers to bite birds, but will bite people if there are no other hosts available or no other birds available to feed on. And the important aspect of the Culex mosquito is it does require water to lay its eggs, so it cannot start its life cycle without water. And it takes about a week. Both of them take about a week to hatch out from egg to adult. The Culex mosquito also prefers outdoors, so it typically will not come inside. It may, if it's following you, to get a blood meal, but most of the time you'll be bitten while you're outside. Now, the Aedes mosquito is the one that is newly introduced, and for any of you that have been bitten recently or bitten multiple times while you're outside during the day, it's the Aedes mosquito that's biting you. The Aedes mosquito prefers those smaller backyard sources, so the flower pots, the flower saucers, any containers you may have outside, any children's toys. If you have grandkids that come visit and they leave toys outside and they fill with sprinkler water. They also prefer cleaner water, so not completely clean, but somewhat cleaner water, and they'll thrive in that. Now, the difference is these mosquitoes prefer to bite during the day, and they prefer to bite people. So, and how they bite is they bite multiple times, so that's why people experience not just one bite, but maybe 3 or 4. In some instances, people have gotten 10 to 15 bites, and they react. Residents are reacting more severely to these bites because we're not used to these newer mosquito bites. The difference and the challenge with these mosquitoes, the Aedes mosquitoes, is that they lay their eggs individually and they do not need water to start their life cycle. So they can lay their eggs on a dry container that once contained water. And those eggs are viable for many years. And once that container fills up with water, they can start their life cycle. So you can understand how challenging it is. And I know at the beginning you brought out how many people are in your community in such a small area. And when you're walking around your community, you see everybody pretty much has some type of flower pot, flower saucers, or something in their patio area or balconies to create some garden-like area. So they really thrive in those ones. Now, the challenge with these mosquitoes is they both prefer indoors or outdoors, so they will and can complete their whole life cycle indoors, especially if you have a flower base or a potted plant or something to that extent that they can bite, lay eggs, and then continue their life cycle indoors. And then you can go to the next slide. And then, so this is what the southern house mosquito looks like. It's about brownish in color. And then if you go to the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit more about its life cycle. So like I mentioned, it needs water to complete its life cycle. It takes about 1 week, and it really doesn't need that much water, even though it prefers those large sources. So you can get 100 mosquitoes in about a bottle cap of water. And then going to the next slide. So the concern with the southern house mosquito is that it is a carrier of West Nile virus. Now, this is 2019's numbers, which we had about a very mild year in 2019 with 5 human cases and about 168 mosquito samples that tested positive. And I believe there was just 1 in Laguna Woods that tested positive last year. Right now, as of last week, we've confirmed 6 mosquito samples that have tested positive. So we're anticipating a moderate West Nile virus here. None of them are in South Orange County. They're all currently located in North Orange County, which, as you can see from the map, those red areas and all those dots, that's predominantly where we get most of our West Nile virus activity, although we have seen it in South Orange County as well. So going to the next slide. So the Aedes mosquito currently is considered a nuisance mosquito. It does bite. It can cause reactions with its bite, and it is capable of transmitting these diseases like Zika, dengue, chikungunya, yellow fever. Very low probability of it transmitting West Nile virus, but it has the capability. It just doesn't do it very well. So these other diseases are very capable of transmitting, but the good news is we don't have these diseases in Orange County. Typically, we'll see one or two of each of these types of viruses from travel-related cases, but because of COVID, we don't anticipate seeing many dengue, chikungunya, or yellow fever or Zika cases this year. So although it can bite, it can cause secondary infections with its bite if you're itching, and it can be medically needed to treat. It does not transmit disease in Orange County right now. And going to the next slide. But this is just an image of how it does continue its life cycle. And you can see on that potted plant, it doesn't lay its eggs in the water, but on the line of the pot. And those are little black dots. They are very hard to see, but in most cases when we are inspecting areas, most flower pots will have some Aedes eggs if you have them in your community. And then once it's overwatered or filled with water, they can continue their life cycle and hatch out into the adult. Going to the next slide. So the Aedes mosquitoes started in the northern part of the county and the southern part of the county. And because of the number and population of the northern part of the county, it's pretty much covered most of northern Orange County, but you can see it's spreading in southern Orange County as well. And we have identified it in Laguna Woods and found samples and confirmed it. So with the proximity of households within your community, we anticipate if there isn't active community and resident engagement that they will spread pretty rapidly. Going to the next slide. So these are the common sources that they really like, although they are really fond of finding any little water source. Lucky bamboos are probably the most prominent source of Aedes breeding, and because people have them in their house, we've actually found lucky bamboo that has hundreds of Aedes larvae in them. Flower pot saucers are another one. Now, I know Laguna Woods is unique in the sense that some areas of the community require flower pots. So what we advise is if you are able to remove the flower pots and without violating any of your homeowner regulations, then do so. But if you are not, to make sure that you put some type of absorbent material under the flower pot and the saucer to eliminate any standing water, or just dump that water weekly to prevent any mosquitoes from breeding in there. The other one, you don't really have a lot of tires in your community, but any small sources in your backyard, any debris, any bromeliads you have can hold water. Bromeliads are another common source, and you can see on the bottom right of that image, the water in the bulb of that flower is a perfect breeding source for the Aedes mosquito. Going to the next slide. So really what I am asking of you as board members and leaders in your community is to help educate the residents and make sure that they are being active in mosquito control, checking their yards, not growing any plants in water-filled buckets, removing saucers, or controlling for the water in saucers of potted plants. And then the best course of action, I know people love bromeliads, is removing those bromeliads or dumping out any excess water from the bromeliads once whatever water it needs to absorb is absorbed. And then making sure to limit any outdoor containers or scrubbing them and storing them in some place where they cannot get any water runoff to prevent those Aedes locations. And then going to the next slide. So we work with your management company and the staff from Laguna Woods to make sure that they're educated as well. And we've worked with Siobhan and her team, but really it is a shared responsibility, and that's what we wanted to convey to you as HOA board directors as well as leaders in the community. Now, when we talk about clearing debris, waterways, channels, and gutters, when possible, it can be done so. I know one of the biggest areas of concern for residents in Laguna Woods is Aliso Creek and those lateral waterways that are running from Aliso Creek. So Aliso Creek has some debris, but it's also considered a riparian habitat, which means it has habitat for wildlife. So it can't necessarily be completely cleared out because of that habitat. So what we do is we have our staff go out every 10 days to inspect and treat. And when we do a treatment on there, it usually lasts for at least 30 days. In some instances, can last for a couple of months. Some areas of Aliso Creek, because it's able to, can have mosquito fish. In other areas, we just have to go in and manually treat. But I know it's a large water source, and people always attribute that to mosquito breeding, but we have inspected it, and we go out routinely and do so. Now, if you have residents that have concerns, or you have a concern about a section of that creek, you can always give us a call, and we'll go out and double check and confirm it's treated, or if it's breeding, to go ahead and note that area and continue to monitor it. Going to the next slide. The other thing we need to make sure we stress, and then we hope that you do, is that when you are going outside, source reduction is one key, and making sure that everybody's talking with their neighbors and making a community effort to reduce mosquito sources, but also using EPA registered repellents like DEET, picaridin, IR3535, or lemon of eucalyptus oil. Those are some of the key ingredients, although the EPA website has hundreds of active ingredients that work for mosquito repellent. And making sure you apply those when you go outside, or you're wearing loose, long-fitted, light-colored clothing to prevent those mosquito bites that can either transmit disease or just be a nuisance for you. So going to the next slide. So our recommendations, and this is a message we convey to all the cities when we go out and do presentations with them or virtual presentations, is to make sure that everybody is checking their yard weekly, especially as we're spending more time at home. We're creating these nice little gardens, and if you have a bigger backyard, maybe some nice areas to enjoy your patio. We really want you to enjoy your home, so making sure that you're dumping and draining water, that you're closing all your doors that are unscreened and windows, or making sure your screens and doors are in good repair to prevent those mosquitoes from coming into your home. And then reducing your activity during peak mosquito hours, which are dusk and dawn. And if you cannot, then making sure you're wearing repellent and loose long pants or long sleeve shirts to prevent those bites. And the next slide. And then this is my information, and I know you have a lot of items on your agenda, and so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you have now, but you can always contact me at my phone number or email, or through Siobhan and her staff, and I'll get back to you with any questions you may have.
We have two questions for you. Cash,
more than a question, I have a couple of things to bring to Ms. Young's notice. One, going by the dog park on Ridge Route, just north of Moulton. After you cross the dog park, there's a lot of puddle water on the left side by the dog park, up to almost to these Moulton. And on the other side, there is some kind of catch basin that is full of mosquitoes, and it even has a foul smell. I reported this 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I still see the puddles still there on the left side. I was kind of wondering if she can bring this up to, because these are breeding grounds. A lot of
so what I can do is check if you did report it, then we had someone go out already, and they may have treated it. And it's important to know, although we may be treating a catch basin, it's not going to change the appearance of any catch basin or gutters. So we treat for the mosquitoes. We don't necessarily flush it out or get rid of any of the debris. We just want to make sure that it's not breeding for mosquitoes. So I do need a little bit more information on where it is, but I can definitely get information to you or get it to Siobhan, and she can share it with you on what happened in those areas that you reported.
Second question I have is, I'd heard that they do aerial spray for taking care of mosquito breeding. A lot of Orange County here shown kind of concentrated with mosquitoes. Do we have any of those kind of programs to aerial spray, disinfectants or something, or just for information?
Right. So, well, Aerial applications are a tool that we do have in our tool belt. We have never conducted an aerial application in Orange County. Now, you may be seeing more information, especially on social media and in the news, as we see more West Nile virus positive mosquito samples. We do have triggers and levels in which we activate urban truck-mounted adult control. And our goal in that is to break the disease transmission. So when we do any kind of adult control, our primary goal is not just to reduce the mosquito populations, but target the areas where we see disease in mosquitoes.
Thank you.
And the reason for that is because adult mosquito control is only a temporarily product. So you spray any adult control, and then in a week or two, you're going to see the new mosquitoes. Really, the way to eliminate mosquitoes is to eliminate the sources. So when we do those adult controls, it's because we see disease and we know that there's a risk of someone getting sick, and we want to eliminate that.
Okay, Elsie?
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Young, I was wondering, relative to these Aedes mosquitoes, you said they were in South. Here's the deal. Last year and the year before that, right about now, I start getting these multiple, they look like mosquito bites, but there's like 10 of them. And they're all in the same general area of my body. And so, you know how a bee will only sting once because the stinger falls out, but a hornet will do you several times. So do these Aedes, will one mosquito bite you over and over and over?
Yes, so they're actually snackers versus our normal mosquitoes. So one mosquito will literally can bite you 3 or 4 or 5 times, and they take a little blood from each bite.
Ah.
Yeah.
So that's just precious. And have they been in this South County for a while?
They were first identified in I can tell you in Laguna Woods, they were identified in 2018. And so it's been there.
2018, 2019, and now it's 2020.
Yeah.
That must have been what it was. Because other people have noticed it in my neighborhood as well.
Right. So I guess the good news and the bad news with these mosquitoes is they're not very strong flyers. So if you are being bit, it's usually within a close vicinity that someone has a breeding source. And if you're being bit a high number of times repeatedly, then it's closer and closer to you. So if it's not you, it's one of your neighbors.
Oh, it's not me, but I'll be on patrol. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Andre?
Yes, I have a couple questions. Is vector control responsible for skunk, raccoon, and squirrel removals and that kind of things? I know you're responsible for coyote, but are you responsible for little, smaller animals?
No, so the only other mammal that we control for is rats, and our control for rats is really an education-based program. So we don't control for coyotes either. Skunks, raccoons, possums, we provide education, which is usually when you see those, they're looking for a food source. So fruit trees, snails, something in the ground, some grubs in the ground to eat. I would refer to your management company to see if they have someone that they utilize for control of those. I do not know that, though.
Okay. I will talk to BMS now. Glad to hear that news. And also, water fountains, are they a source of breeding ground? And if it's flowing, is that also a source of breeding ground? I've seen some water fountains in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So water fountains can be a source of mosquito breeding if they're not running and flowing. But if they're cycling through and they're running at least once a week, then typically they will not be a source.
Okay.
If
All right.
in doubt, just give us a call and we'll check it out for you.
Okay. All right. Do you have a list of EPA registered repellents?
I can get a it was on the PowerPoint, but I can get you the website. There's over 100 different active ingredients that the EPA says will repel mosquitoes. So I can get you that link, and it's actually a very good link because it goes through a questionnaire and sort of provides a recommendation of what may work best for you.
Okay, great. That can help us out a lot. Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Manuel?
Thank you, Sue. My question is that I seem to be fortunate that mosquitoes don't like me or they don't like my deodorant, but I have a small dog, and I've looked it up on Google, and I'd like to have you confirm what I've found. And they have stated there that certain domestic animals like horses and so on can be afflicted with the West Nile virus, but there's no record of dogs and cats having a risk. So I'd like to know what your information is on that, because I do have a small dog that I'm concerned about. Thank you.
So West Nile virus typically does not process in dogs or cats. It does in horses, and but with horses there is a vaccine for West Nile virus. So most people that own horses vaccinate. So while West Nile virus isn't a risk for dogs and cats, the Aedes mosquitoes can transmit dog heartworm, which is a risk for dogs and cats. But that can be easily remedied if you have your pet on dog heartworm medicine or some kind of control, and that's usually a once a month or once every couple of months, depending on the prescription you have for your dog.
Thank you very much, Laura, and we hope not to have you back too soon. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, and have a great day.
Okay, Jeff.
Bye.
Would you like to give a CEO report, please?
Thank you, Sue, and members. Good morning to you all. I wanted to go over just a couple of comments, piggybacking on Sue's comments about COVID. I just wanted to give an update with regards to yesterday's numbers, which were case-wise were better than what we've seen last week. We were, for those that follow that, we were in the 1,100 and 1,200, almost 1,300 in one day number of cases. Dropped down yesterday to 540 cases, 6,700 tests. So we're still at above the 5% threshold that people feel comfortable about, but we're at 7.9%. The statewide average was a positive rating, I believe, is at 7.7, which is what triggered the governor to become more restrictive yesterday with regards to closing down businesses and restaurants and that type of activity. But I did want to mention on that positive rate that we were over 10% in the last 2 weeks, which is pretty significant as it relates to the ones that I want to mention right now, which is our hospital numbers are at 674 and 235 in ICU. Those are fairly high numbers. They've continued to stay high. And of course, to the board members, the big issue there is not running into a situation where ICU capacity gets maxed out. Unfortunately, in some of our neighboring counties, we're not there yet, but in some of our neighboring counties, they've reached some maximization, so they're having to convert normal hospital beds into ICU beds. So that's something that Orange County is going to have to is watching pretty dramatically and making sure that we don't get into the same kind of ICU situation in the county. The other thing I wanted to mention was next week, as you know, we're right in the midst of all of our budget activity. The process begins in earnest with regards to presentations starting next week. On July 20th, on Monday, we'll have our all boards meeting, in which we'll be unveiling on the 20th version 1. The process then continues with individual board meetings after that. The 22nd is GRF, followed by the 23rd, which is yours, United meeting at 1:30 on the 23rd. We have reached out. I know that we'll probably talk about this maybe a little bit more in closed session too, but I know we've reached out to Carl because he had a question with regards to MNC. As you recall, when we put out the budget calendar for this year back in, I think the first version went out on March 5th, and then the second update, kind of reiterating what we were saying, went out on May 1st. We consolidated and condensed our budgetary process this year, where we will, when we have our meeting with you on the 23rd, it will include all that dialogue about landscaping and maintenance and construction as part of that overall, because one of the things that we saw occur last year was that there's a lot of dialogue with regards to MNC and landscaping, but nobody has the big picture of what that means relative to the overall budget. And so it was getting into these isolations, and we didn't want that to occur, because then we end up coming back later and saying, well, here's what you need to do if you want to cut way back on your assessment. So we sent out to all of the boards, as you recall, the survey, kind of getting guidance on where we wanted to start. Version 1 is trying to follow that as much as possible. You will obviously get that as soon as possible. We hope to have everything put together by Wednesday so that we can get it out way in advance of the Monday meeting. And then, like I said, we'll be moving towards your meeting specifically on the 23rd with regards to your overall version 1 meeting. We did send out an invitation to Carl, and I know Carl had a question with regards to MNC specifically to make sure that we're consistent on Friday. I don't mind if there's more people involved with that. So putting that back on the notice, if there's some additional people that Carl would like to have at the meeting, that's fine. But all of that information is then ultimately going to be brought forward on the 23rd when we bring you version 1. So I just wanted to give you that update. I think that's all I had right now. I know Siobhan has a few additional updates to give you.
Thank you, Jeff. Honorable President, members of the board, I just have 2 quick announcements today. Yesterday, Waste Management notified us that they will be resuming its Saturday bulky item collection program. Here, this occurs on the 3rd Saturday of each month. So the next collection will be this Saturday, July 18th. Residents are reminded to notify resident services prior to setting anything out. The number for resident services is 949-597-4600. Residents are reminded to place items near the trash enclosure or in the same location they place their trash bins. Bulky items must be set out the night before or no later than 7 a.m. on collection day. And as a reminder, Waste Management is still not scheduling in-house bulky item pickup services at this time due to COVID-19. And then secondly, the 2020 census has extended its submission deadline due to the public health crisis. The deadline for completing census questionnaires is now October 31st. So if residents have not completed their forms, they are encouraged to do so. They can complete forms by submitting them online, by telephone, or by email. And this can be done by starting with visiting my2020census.gov as the starting point. Again, you can visit my2020census.gov to begin this process. And that concludes my updates this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to accept the consent calendar? Carl, is there a second? Netta?
As amended, right?
As amended, yes.
Okay.
Anybody want to speak about it? Okay, I gather we accepted it. We want to move forward as quickly as we can here. So we're going to unfinished business. The next thing on it is the joint resolution regarding COVID-19. There's been a change in plan. There is going to be an ad hoc committee meeting at 3 o'clock this afternoon with 2 people from each of the boards attending that. So what I'd like to do is first go around to each person and have them tell us what they would say if they were on this committee, and then we will vote for 2 people to go forward to the committee. So I'm going to start with cash. If you were on this committee, what would you like to see that changes to the mask situation?
Mandatory masks, important. Everyone should wear and cover their nose as well as mouths whenever they are in public. Second, I would like to say that fines should be imposed strictly, and we should have some security or whatever encircling the campus so people can be spotted. That's all.
Okay, next, Elsie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was pretty shocked to hear we were up to 32. That's just kind of heartbreaking. But I've always been for mandatory masks. As far as the fines go, Manny brought up there was some kind of a discrepancy back and forth, but the one that we were being asked to approve started, I believe, with $50 instead of $250. The original one was a lot higher. So if I were going to be on this ad hoc committee, which I don't expect to be, I would have to support both of those. And as far as the gatherings go, I think the over 10. I think the over 10 is a really important rule, and I think it was. I just don't think people follow the rules. There's so many people, including some directors, that just think it's absolutely ridiculous to have to wear a mask, and I just don't believe that. The science of my own personal experience, I believe that masks work. And with 32 cases, that could be 64 and 128 so fast. So I would have to pretty much say what Cash said. Thank you.
Netta?
I support all the rules and regulations because I think it's very important. And for the fine, I agree with that one too, because when I see the other cities, it's pretty much the same. And why not us? And I agree with everything. It's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Manuel?
Thank you, Sue. I have nothing to contribute as far as the policy that you want to discuss. What I do have trouble with is that although I was not in favor of this at the beginning, unfortunately we have residents that can't do the right thing, so we have to have something like this in place. But the fines that were first proposed were much higher. And the ones that were actually approved in a meeting that are in minutes from that special emergency meeting that was called state that the fines will be $10 for the first offense, $50 for the second one, and $100 for the third. And that's what has been approved and passed. And when I brought this up before, the argument that was given was we can't have different things for the different mutuals. Well, we do have GRF that's not in the program right now, so we do have different things. So you've got to correct that. The fine, the penalties that should be in effect for United should be $10, $50, and $100. That is what was passed by the board in a secret meeting. And I don't know how you can go beyond that. Thank you.
So you want to stick with the 10, 50, and 100. Okay.
Madam Chair.
We'll get to you. Brian?
Yeah, I think the most effective mitigation is social distancing, 6 feet apart. I think people wear masks and they think that then they could be a foot apart. They got to keep their distances. Why local surrounding communities have masks is because they have stores and they want the stores filled with people, and so they have them wear masks. That's all I have to say.
What about the fines?
If there's no mask mandate, then there's no fine mandate. I would put a mandate in about social distancing, though.
Okay. Anthony now.
Madam Chair, it's. I don't think we should be underwriting this. You know, we're the ones who are going to be complaining about having our monthly assessments go up, but we're willing to underwrite these fines. I think that's nonsense. I think whatever the fines we should be able to cover our costs on fines. That's my point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Carl?
I have a couple of things. With regard to the fines, the original was $10, $50, and $100. If it means that we basically will collaborate with Third and go with the $50, $100, and $250, it's okay with me as long as people abide by the rules. They won't be assessed these fines. To be perfectly honest, I don't really think we're going to be able to enforce this anyway, so the fine becomes almost moot. Okay. With regard to the face mask itself, with regard to the social gathering, prohibit large gatherings in open space. Large gatherings defined as greater than 10 people. We still have those people down at the park, and nobody seems to have a problem with it because of the fact that they're all wearing masks. So if we're going to put this in here, we have to enforce it or not have it in at all. And at this particular point in time, people seem to think in terms of the fact that since they are down at the park and still enjoying themselves because there's nothing much else to do, that they leave them alone because everybody's wearing a mask. So are we going to enforce it or not? And we have to make that decision because at this particular point in time, it's still in there. You don't put a rule into effect if you're not going to enforce it. And then the last thing is I still have a particular problem. Yes, masks are important. I believe they're important. Every time I leave my house, for the most part, I wear a mask, except when I go outside my door, there's nobody within 1,000 feet of me. And I'm forced to wear a mask to go throw out my garbage. And I think that since most of the places around this community, there's not anybody within 100 to 200 feet of them, except maybe if they pass on the sidewalk, to have these people have to wear a mask as soon as they get outside their door is kind of a little ludicrous. And I would go according to what Orange County and the governor says, that masks are required as long as you cannot maintain the social distancing. And that part of it seems to sort of like be muddied within this particular document. That's what I got.
Juanita?
I think this subcommittee is very important. This is a community issue, not a mutual issue. We've got to work together, and everybody has to be on the same page. It's very difficult in this community to separate ourselves from the rest of the community, particularly where I live, between 5 and 6, where we have a great mixture of both United and Third. We're not segregated. With Carl's point, I did not wear a mask when I went out to my mailbox the other day, and sure enough, I hadn't barely gotten to my mailbox when my neighbor opened their door and walked out. So you never know when you're going to run into somebody. And I think it's something that we need to. I like your idea, Sue, of keeping it on the doorknob. Whenever you leave your house, you need to have a mask on. As for the fines, the fines are a deterrent. They're not covering any kind of cost. They're a deterrent. And sometimes it's the only kind of a deterrent that gets through to certain people. So I think that, again, it's something we need to work with and be sensitive to what the rest of the village wants.
Thank you. Andre?
Okay. I have I talked a lot about this one with both sides. My point is that everybody has their freedom. Okay, there's no doubt that's the foundation of this country. But when freedom collide with other people's freedom, people say, I don't need to wear. I don't feel like to wear a face mask. It's limiting my freedom. Other people say, I don't feel like to get a virus from you because you are not wearing a mask. When these two freedoms collide with each other, it's the legal side that has to come in. And if nobody want to compromise, that's what I've been telling them. Okay, It's not that we want to limit your freedom. It's that your freedom is colliding with other people's freedom. So that's what we need to do at this point. And I haven't got any people complain about, the wrong way to deal with the freedom. And we also need to have a security execution principle procedure, because I've noticed that security is not executing the same way we set up the resolution, and I'm a little bit confused on this side, because I thought I was broadcasting the message, telling everybody, doing good deeds to help we express what our decision has been, and then security came over and they did something differently. I'm totally confused. Why is there a difference there? Okay. And also, I want to advertise again. I'm giving away free face masks. Please let everybody know that they can call me and get free face masks if they want. And also, I want to say about social distance, 6 feet. We got to understand that social distance, 6 feet, is you sit your chair and I sit my chair, then 6 feet difference is a good measurement. But when you're moving, and I'm moving towards each other, watch out. Okay, 6 feet may not be enough. It's really the breathing range that matters. If you walk right into somebody else's breathing range, you may get infected. Okay, so we talk about 6 feet. 6 feet is just when people sitting away from each other. But when they are moving, better walk around it rather than just say, when I met you, it was 6 feet, as long as we meet 6 feet apart. Okay, so that's very careful, especially when you're following somebody. You are in his breathing range all the time. So be very careful about that. That's my comment.
How do you feel about the fines?
The fine, as long as it's not $250, I'm fine. $10, I would prefer $10, but $25 or $50 is I would prefer not to go that high. Okay. $50, you have them coming to the hearing all the time.
Okay.
Especially if they complain, they will be reduced. They will come.
Okay. We got Becky. Would you go ahead with the comment that we've gotten?
Yes, we have one member comment. It might go over 3 minutes, so I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes, if that's all right with you.
Thank you.
Okay, this member comment is from Cynthia Schaefer at 207F. And dear United Board members, I believe the system you have just abandoned, which encouraged people to wear masks and keep a 6-foot distance, was a better for everyone than the new drastic edict, complete with fines. We are at the start of summer. The temperature of 90 and above are not uncommon. In the old system, we could take a walk, breathing in the air directly, and then pull up our mask or step away from the path when we encountered other walkers. Now that it is hot, wearing a mask and rebreathing heated air is going to work against our body's temperature and regulation, and I believe that people will be fainting and becoming ill from the heat and lack of oxygen. This new mandate will hurt people. This will be especially difficult for those employees who do manual labor in the heat and is inhumane. At the beginning of the epidemic, we were told by everyone, including the Mayo Clinic, said that hand washing and social distancing were more important than masks. Here are some more of the drawbacks of wearing a mask. 1, in a study conducted by the National Taiwan University Hospital, it has been found that the use of the N95 masks in healthcare workers has caused them to experience hypoxemia, the low levels of oxygen in blood, and hypercapnia and elevation in the blood's carbon dioxide levels. 2, the above reference goes into say Newer evidence also reveals that the coronavirus may enter the brain in some cases by wearing a mask. Viruses released upon expiration will not be given a chance to escape and will further congregate in the nasal passages. This allows the virus to enter the olfactory nerves and travel further, eventually reaching the brain. 3, masks can irritate skin and cause the skin breakouts. 4, if your mask gets wet or if you touch your mask, you can also reduce efficiency. You will need to wash and dry it. 5, ties can irritate your ears, especially if you're wearing glasses and have hearing aids. 6, mask muffles the voice so that people hard of hearing cannot understand the speaker, thus reducing communication skills and making one feel isolated. This is further exacerbated because the mask covers the mouth so that lip reading is impossible. 7, masks block your peripheral vision so that you cannot see your feet. I tripped over a display in a grocery store a couple of weeks ago and almost fell. I have osteoporosis and had fallen. I could have broken my hip. I am more worried about falling. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick Rader.
Thank you.
Sue, I was ahead of him, Sue. This is Danny. Take a look at your chat box.
Okay, I'm going to call on Dick and then I'll call on you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a PhD in microbiology. It doesn't make me an expert in coronavirus, but it does allow me to look at the literature with a critical eye. I cannot take the time now to address all the things that this person brought up, some of which is scientifically based and some of which is not. The idea, I'll just address one quickly. The idea about oxygen levels and CO2 increasing, oxygen going down if you wear a mask, you would see a huge problem with our healthcare workers because they wear the masks all day. So I could go through it scientifically, but that's just an observation. Here's the most important one I can convey to you now. Anytime any government agency, whether it's the government, the governor's level, whatever, they all address general populations. But there are subsets of populations, for example, nursing homes, and there are special rules for them. How many of you know that there are special rules for senior communities? And I would encourage you, if you are interested, to look at the CDC, look at the recommendations for residential, for senior communities. And if you look at it and you read it, it will tell you you should wear a mask whenever feasible, whenever possible. That means, to me, all the time. And what they're talking about, in essence, is that if you have something, a pre-existing condition like oxygen, you have to wear oxygen all the time, whatever, then there will be exceptions. But again, I'll end there. There are exceptions. The exceptions for residential community is mask all the time, social distancing all the time, even though you may be wearing a mask.
Thank you. Okay, we're going on the second round, and we'll only allow second round once more, and then we're done. Manny.
Thank you, Sue. First of all, I'd like to comment on that member's input. I don't have it in front of me, the policy, but I do recall that within that policy that there were some exceptions where you could be excused from the requirement of wearing a mask, and some of them were physical conditions that you could support with a doctor's report saying, yeah, you shouldn't wear a mask for this reason or whatever that reason is. So maybe a good idea would be to take the input from that member and see if you've covered them all in the policy, because that member did bring up some good points. Going back to Carl's comment about the concerts in the Aliso Creek Park, again, I need to point out to a lot of people what they don't seem to know or understand, and that's that the creek out there belongs to the GRF, just like the streets, the entry gates. And if you look at, let's say, Gate 12, where Clubhouse 19, Clubhouse 2, the whole golf course, that is owned by GRF, all right? And that's under legal title to a track map that had to be recorded somewhere along the line, just like Aliso Creek Park. And what I'm saying is that since they didn't adopt these policies, we have that area staked. So that means the area between those stakes out there falls under GRF jurisdiction. So
Okay,
right now, those concerts are still be held. Let me finish. Those concerts held, they are not subject to penalties. They are not subject to any kind of.
That's what we're going to take care of in the ad hoc committee. Thank you. Elsie, do you have a comment?
Just a quick one. I was glad to hear Dick Rader support what I believe. I used to live overseas, as some of you know, and I rather frequently took 14-hour flights, and more frequently 8 and 10-hour flights. That's one way. And I kept getting sick. And nasty little, it was viruses, it was flu-like symptoms. And I got from breathing all that recycled air. And I know this is a special circumstance, but the point is, I started wrapping the lower part of my face. If I didn't have a mask, I would use a scarf or a shawl. And you know what? Knock on wood, I haven't had one single, and that's been, well, I haven't been taking those flights, but for at least the last 2 years that I was making those long haul flights, I didn't get one single illness. And I'm a believer, totally believer.
Andre, really quick, because I want to move. We've got a lot of business, and it's coming on to 11:12. So I'm going to.
This is a response to Cynthia Schaefer. I understand your argument. That's quite common in the people that are against the face mask. And you talk about yourself. You suffer of wearing the face mask. But like I said, it's a freedom between you and the other people. Other people don't want to be affected. So when the two freedoms collide, we have to make a decision. So that's why we advise people to wear face masks, even if it's inconvenient for you. But we don't want others to get affected. And your point of very well taken about your suffering. We need to consider about other people's suffering if possible. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on now. What I'm going to do is I've appointed myself and Carl to go to that committee. If there's anybody that wants to contest that, let's do it now. But I'd like to move on as quickly as we can to the next subject. We're going to vote on the let me see, it's 3. Receive and file the okay, that's the manual, right? Landscape manual. So is there a motion to receive and file the landscape manual? Juanita, is there a second? Meta. Okay, is there any discussion on this other than that you don't have a marked up copy? Carl?
That's the only thing. I have no idea what got changed in this thing. And, and maybe it's just a matter of it was a general upgrade, but at this particular point in time, if we as United are going to vote on this thing, we should at least know what changed from the last time. At least get a synopsis of what got changed.
Kurt, could you give us a synopsis of what changed?
The only major changes to this was to make it more readable, to make it more understandable by the community. We have changed some of our methodologies from the original one, which was most recently updated in 2015. So some of the methodologies we've changed, some of the way we go about work, such as chargeable services. We don't do that as much as we used to. There was a whole section for that. There was a section for the Yellow Stake program, which has been removed. Other than that, it's not a big update. We haven't changed. There's no rules in here that have changed. The only thing in here, we've updated all of the newer resolutions and put them in here. And that's about it. It was just a way to make it more readable, more understandable, and more usable by the residents to get a better understanding of how we operate landscape.
Any other discussion here? Okay, let's do Andre.
Just a question, Will. First, I'm having the draft menu in front of me, and it's not, it doesn't have a change tracking, so I really don't know what's changed. I understand it's probably minor. What?
That was the comment that was made, and that's what Kurt told us, what changed. Okay?
Kurt gave the general description, didn't say specifically what are the words. So usually we have a word-by-word change tracking, so we know what's been changed.
Okay. If you don't like it, you vote against it. Let's move on. I hear you.
I also would like to hear, where will it be published? Will it be published on the website? I don't see that on the website at this point.
Once it's approved by the board, it will go up on the website.
Okay, so the old version is not there at this point. Okay.
Sue, this is Manny. I'm on the chat box. Oh, wait. I'm on the chat box, Sue.
Okay, go ahead, Manny.
Okay, thank you. One of the things I need to point out here is that Andre was on the landscape committee at the time this was presented. He reviewed it. We made all those changes. And for him to come along now and second guess it, I mean, it's laughable. That's all I have to say.
No comments about other board members, please. Okay, I'm going to take a vote. Will you raise your hands if you're for accepting this resolution?
I don't know if you see me, but my camera is not working.
I'll take a vote. Yes?
Yes.
And
yes.
Brian, yes, also. It unanimously passed. Okay.
No, I voted no.
Andre voted no. The rest all voted yes. Okay, new business. We're going to go on to 12A, which was I'm having trouble keeping track of things. 10A3. Receive the United 10AC. Okay. We're going to receive under the code 5501 the subcommittee report. Can I have a motion to receive that? Juanita, is there a second? A second? Netta. Okay, we're going to just take a vote. I'm going to do it by voice. Cass?
Yes.
Elsie?
This is the trust transfer, right?
No, this is the 5501, the signing off on the checks.
Oh, that. Yes, I vote yes. Sorry.
Netta?
Yes.
Manuel?
So I'm confused. Tell me which agenda item this is, because I thought next was the 12 coming up after
the
11.
consent calendar. We had moved the receiving of the statutory obligations under civil code. You want to know?
Okay, that's 5,500. 5,500. That's a no.
Brian?
May I ask a question about this one?
Yes.
This civil code, why do we have to reaffirm civil code?
It's not the civil code. We're accepting Brian's and Netta's signatures on the 5501. Are you, Carl?
Okay. No, 5,500. 5,500, Sue.
Okay, it says 5501, but 5,500. Carl?
5,500, yeah.
No.
Juanita?
Yes.
Andre?
Yes.
Okay. We have 2 noes and the rest are yes. Thank you. So moving on now to what's on there, entertaining the motion for the governing docs. Andre, would you make that motion, please?
Yeah, yes, let me find my document here.
Excuse me, Sue, I thought you moved the treasurer vote to 12A.
We just did. We voted. That was the
No,
vote.
that
we
was Sue.
took.
The treasurer?
No, treasurer's position. She's right. I didn't want to say it, but she's
Oh,
right.
okay, the treasurer position. Now that's the next thing. Okay. All right. Thank you, Elsie. I've got too many things we changed. Okay. So let's, nominations for a treasurer is now open. Is there any nominations?
I nominate Monica Skillman.
Okay, Juanita. Juanita, are you willing to take that job on?
Yes, I am. I am not an accountant, but I have done budgets as an officer for 5 years. I think I'm very attuned to the process, and I have a good relationship with staff.
Okay, any other nominations?
I would nominate Manny. Okay, we need a real estate or HOA CPA to work on that. I understand Juanita has a very good relationship with staff, but I think we need somebody who can look at the information critically rather than remain a good relationship. Thank you very much.
Okay. Manuel, are you willing to take the job?
Yeah, first I'd like to say thank you, Andre. I like the vote of confidence and the remarks that you made. I agree with you. We need to relook at these things critically. And yes, I accept the nomination.
Are there any other nominations?
Just for clarification, ma'am, this is just for the unexpired portion of Brian's term, right?
Correct. Okay, now, the situation is that this is a closed voting. So what you need to do is to go in the send to box. You need to pick, let's see, where is she? You need to pick, I don't see.
President
Are
Margolis,
you going to have any discussion?
if I might
Cheryl's
interject
not on.
for one moment, since Cheryl was having difficulties with the internet, you can either send it to myself or Siobhan.
Let's go to the VMS conference. Select VMS conference, everybody, instead of.
Where do I go then?
But who's VMS conference? Isn't that Cheryl?
No, that is Grant.
Oh, okay.
And write in the name of the person that you're voting for in that box.
Are we going to have any discussions?
No. What do you want? Go ahead and say what you want to say.
I have little things to bring about some of the emails that floated out, and the language.
That can only be done in a closed meeting. I'm sorry. We can't talk about people in an open meeting. Thank you.
Okay. So where do I go? Conference?
You go to VMS conference,
VMS
select
conference.
that person and send your vote.
Sue, that says VMS conference presenter organizer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
No. Organizer only is on somebody else. It's at the bottom of the VMS conference, presenter organizer.
The same person is doing both of those jobs, so it'll get there.
Maybe we can ask Grant if he's actually receiving anything.
I am receiving
I
them.
sent mine. Did you receive it?
Grant?
Yes, I am receiving them.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Grant, did you get mine?
Yes.
Anthony, are you there?
Yeah. I voted. You didn't get it?
No, I was, your face is gone.
Well, I'm playing with this new Android thing. I did vote, though.
Okay, Grant, do you have 10 votes?
One moment. All right. There is 5 votes for either.
Oh, good. Okay, we will have to,
May I suggest something?
yes.
I think you need to have Reza attend the meeting.
Let us take this particular election to the closed meeting, and then we go about it again.
Okay, that we will table this until the closed meeting.
I don't believe this qualifies for the closed meeting. This is
No,
something.
I don't believe it did either. I agree with Danny.
No, this doesn't qualify for the closed meeting.
And I think we need to call a meeting where Reza is in attendance, and we'll have 11.
Okay, what I'm going to do is table this until, yeah, let's table it for the minutes right now, and then we will try to get Reza on phone to vote.
So then we need to discuss some of the issues that have occurred recently.
Okay.
If you want to do it that way and then get somebody who's not in the meeting now for his vote, and
What I'm saying
then
is
this
we're
needs to
going
be.
to have to do this. We will have to call a special open meeting to take this vote, okay?
Thank you. With discussions.
No, the open meeting, we cannot discuss personalities. You can discuss them this afternoon, and then we will have a special open meeting.
Let him talk. Let him say whatever he wants, okay?
No, I am not permitting that to happen here. Let's move on. Okay, since the time is so late, we're going to do the treasurer's report, and Brian is going to go ahead and do the treasurer's report. And then if there was no meeting for your report, just say no meeting, and we'll move on because we've got such a short amount of time. So, okay, Brian, would you please go ahead and do the treasurer's report?
Yeah, if Grant could show the slide.
Chair, there are 2 other items under new business.
Oh,
Yeah,
excuse me a second. I'm sorry. All right. Thank you, Juanita. Let's first take the 2 items. Okay, Andre, have you got your papers ready?
Yes, we will review the third
No, that isn't what
document.
we're looking at. It's the delegation of the authority for the members' trust transfer. There's a motion on the floor so that we do not have to sign on paper the trust transfers.
Who made the motion?
Oh, yeah, cost transfers, yes. Yes,
Andre
so,
takes it right now.
yes, so what we are happening right now is that board members need to sign the trust transfers, but it has nothing to do with any significance with this issue, and it takes time for the staff to prepare and director's time to sign it. So it's inconvenienced residents. So what we decided is we approved is that we give the authority to the staff to sign the trust transfers. That's the authority to give. So we don't have to sign it and delay the process.
100% have been signed without anything. Is there a second for this motion? Cash seconds it. I'm going to do a hand-raising vote unless there's discussion.
I have one thing, Sue, regarding the. Originally, we said that would be done by anybody within the specific that particular division. Okay, Pam Bashline's division. Now we've specifically indicated that it's only Catherine Lassiter or Pam Bashline that actually can sign these things. Is that what we're really saying now?
I don't remember seeing that. I thought it was just staff. We agree with the staff will sign it. We let them decide, who's the most appropriate. We don't need to micromanage and tell them who's the most appropriate.
Carl's right. Carl's right. That's what it says. Let's go on.
That's what it says. It's right in the resolution. That's what it says.
They wrote the resolution. If they want it that way, that's fine with us. Does anybody have a problem with that?
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that, because we didn't read the resolution, so it specifically says Catherine or Pamela only, period. I don't have a problem with that.
Are we not going to read the resolution?
Okay, Juanita. Okay, go ahead. Let's read the top, the sublease. Okay. Anything else? Okay, Juanita, you wanted to speak.
I was just going to point out to Andre that there is no change in the amount of paperwork that the staff has to do. They would still prepare the same packages that they would. The only difference is instead of sending to the director's room for a signature, they would sign them downstairs.
Okay.
And there's another thing.
May we have a vote?
Well, there's another thing, because it says resolve further that the two board directors will make random checks each month and sign a form that was completed. That's nice pie in the sky, but there's no formula for how that's going to happen.
It's
What is
the same way as the accounting is done. We're going to put it on the consent calendar.
Okay. Is that the methodology that's used? Because right now. Okay, as long as we know that's what we do.
Board will decide that. We don't have to get into detail as far as what needs to be done. And also, some of these are too detailed. If people leave and if people, we'll have to rewrite the resolution. We have to re-agree. Let's make it more general. So let the management do their management work. Let the board does the board work. Okay, there's no need to be too specific on issues.
The only issue right now is the fact that if we put that in the resolution, we need to make sure that we follow through on that and we have a method for doing that. That's all. It's the only thing I'm saying.
I agree. Management will propose what they want to do, and the board will propose what board wants to do. Okay, there's no need to nail down specific people at this point. That's what I feel. So I moved to remove those two names from the. Sorry, I didn't really read that much detail like Carl did. So I propose move to remove those names. Let the management decide who will do that. If there's any reorganization, anything like that, let them decide what to do instead of we dictate what who's going to do what in the resolution.
Madam Chair, we're getting confused here. Are we going to vote on a resolution or an amendment to the resolution? Please.
We're going to vote on an amendment to the resolution right now to remove the two names. Okay? First, everybody raise their hand. The two names. Manuel. Okay, you second that. I'm sorry. Thank you, Manuel. Okay, everybody that wants to remove the two names, please raise your hand.
Yes.
Netta? Elsie?
No.
Juanita?
No.
Andre? Netta?
No, I agree with the 2 names.
Okay, Ash?
No.
Yes, you're a yes, Netta. Okay, we've got 2 no's, Juanita and Elsie. Any other no's?
No from me.
Ash, you
No
are
from me.
No from me.
No from me, Madam Chair.
Okay, Anthony, wait a second now. I'm getting confused. I'm going to do a roll call. Cash?
No.
Elsie?
No.
Etta?
So if you're talking about the removing Pamela and
Right.
Miss Laster, I said no. I wanted to remain on the resolution.
Okay,
I
Manuel?
think we're totally replace, my proposal is to replace.
Out of order. Out of order. Out of order.
Andre, quiet.
Beautiful.
Sure, I'll vote yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Anthony?
No.
Carl?
No.
Juanita?
No.
Andre?
Yes. That is micromanaging.
Okay, we've got 6 no's and 4 yeses, so the names remain. Now we're going to vote on the unamended situation. Is there any discussion? Okay. Unamended.
I move
I
we,
have a question on this one. What we propose is not what we decided during the governing document decision.
It's over. Andre, quiet. Cash.
I don't know why staff changed our.
Out of order.
Cash.
I vote yes. I seconded the motion.
Okay, Elsie.
we're voting on the motion now, right? I mean, on the resolution.
Right.
As written. I vote no.
Etta.
Yes.
Manuel.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Anthony.
No.
Carl.
Yes.
Juanita.
No.
Andre.
Yes.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses. 1, 2, 3, 3 noes. It passes. Okay, we're going to next. We're entertaining a motion from Governing Dock Committee to approve the delegation of the authority for lease permits. Andre, would you make a motion, please?
Yes, I move that we permit allow VMS to delegate staff to sign lease permits, and director doesn't need to sign it unless we want spot checking or sampling them.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I have discussion. My package does not have a resolution in it, and specifically it says that this was already approved back in 2018. So what are we voting on? Because it says it's already approved and there's no resolution in my package.
That's correct, Carl. This is Siobhan. This is a receive and file report since it was already approved. It's informational.
And why are we signing these?
Just a reminder.
Yes, we were asked to bring this item before the board, so we have brought it before the board. It's an informational item.
Currently, Siobhan, we are all going up there and signing lease agreements. In fact, there's one up there right now that she's asking us to make a rush on.
Well, this one says, this thing under 12B, it says only packets that are problematic will be escalated to the board for review. So maybe that one that's got a rush on it, maybe it's problematic. I didn't I thought we were signing off on all of them, but apparently not. Huh, imagine that.
Well, in the agenda.
Why don't we vote on it and go on? Let's go ahead and vote on it. Okay.
We don't have to vote on it because there's no resolution, so we're done. We're moving on. We need to find out what's going on because Pamela called us this morning and told us we needed to get up there and sign one. We're moving on. We're going to committee reports.
Hold on, Sue. There's the review, the procedure for requesting documents.
We removed that
Never
from the
mind. That's correct. You're right. Yep, I had a brain fart. Excuse me.
Okay. We're now ready, Brian. I'm sorry. Andre, please mute yourself.
Yes, we'll bring up the slides.
Yes, one moment.
Thank you. This is our preliminary report as of May 31, and it shows our income statement with the net revenue of $2.6 million. And I'll just say as a preface to all of this that COVID is suppressing the expenditures, so we'll see some numbers that appear to be favorable because there's no expenditures going on. Okay, next slide, please. This is operating only income statement. And so, this again goes back to our budget packages, the 95-page document, and different detail is in there. And again, we have an operating surplus. And this does exclude depreciation. Next slide, please. This is the income statement and showing the variances. And of course, again, there's a positive variance. COVID is affecting this as well. We have not seen a major change in revenue, so that's a good sign. Next slide, please. And again, I think this is reflected in the bar charts where there's favorable on outside services, employee compensation, materials and supplies, the investments in the utilities and telephone. Insurance is again unfavorable, and that is because of the increase that we experienced last year. Thank you. Next slide, please. This is a pie chart of the total non-assessment revenue. And we should probably go back and compare this to what happened in maybe February. But it appears that the revenues are holding up. Next slide, please. Total expenses, and in this one, we include the property taxes, but we also broke out the utilities on the upper right-hand corner. And those are only put in there because, those are things that individuals can affect. Next slide, please. And the next slide should have the property and taxes broken out. Or I should say separated out. And again, this shows where the costs are at, expenses, outside services and employee compensation make up the bulk of that. Next slide. Operating fund balances. In the next slide we'll show this, but we had an unexpected expenditures through the contingency because of moisture intrusion. But we are basically executing this per plan. I think that's shown in the next bar chart. Yeah, there we go. The average line is about $21 million. And again, this was planned. So this is actually favorable news. Next slide. And I don't have the very up-to-date on the June report, but this shows our real estate report. Of course, some of this is a lagging indicator, as we'll see from its impact due to COVID. Next slide. Is that it there, Grant? I just got one last comment. Good is. And that's our lease rate is up around 10%. If we do want to contain that, we need to keep an eye on that. So just a FYI, as some of that responsibility shifts over to VMS staff, we do need to track that, maybe put it into a slide itself. Thank you.
Okay, what I'd like is very quick reports because we're really short on time. So architectural, Elsie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Architectural Controls and Standards Committee met on June 18th. We talked about moisture intrusion, alterations, dry rot, standardized alterations plans, and contractors in the community being concerned about response from the alterations department. But it turns out the turnaround's been actually very, very, very good. So their next meeting is on July 16th.
Okay. Communications, there was no meeting. Juanita, is there any comment?
Just that all of our articles are in for the upcoming issue of The Breeze.
Okay. Member hearings, Liberatory. Anthony?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did have a meeting, let's see here, on the 25th of June, and we're going to try to have another meeting on the 23rd of July, but I think we're kind of, we have a lot of meetings that day. I don't know what we're going to do about that, but the meeting we had went fairly well, despite it was a virtual meeting. But this 23rd one, I got to see what the schedule holds. I don't want to miss out on anything. So that's the extent of my report, Madam Chair.
Governing docs, Andre?
Yes, during our June 18th meeting, we talked about the issues related to membership, trust transfer, and the sublease agreement. As you all know the result, we voted for the trust transfer, and the sublease agreement is already our standard practice at this point. We also talked about code of conduct. There were a few issues we reviewed and discussed it, and there were a few issues about potential abuse of code of conduct, like we did during the past. So we had legal comment on some of the issues, and the legal came back with some issues. We'll continue to discuss the code of conduct issues. We also talk about the operating rules issues. We will review the operating rules. There are a lot of duplicates and extra information in there that don't match with each other or just duplicate all over the places. And so we need to synchronize everything. And we went through we didn't go through the occupancy agreement, which is a very, very important. Everybody signed that issue, and there are a lot of answers there. There are a lot of operating rules based on the operating agreement. We will talk about that. So basically, that's what we've done. Thank you very much.
Next meeting is July 16th at 1:30. Landscape, please.
Yeah, this is Thursday.
Thank you. Got a couple of important things to report here. First, we had our last meeting June the 11th, and we approved 2 trees to be removed, 3 were denied, and we also approved the landscape manual that we previously discussed today. The important thing that I want to mention here is that Kurt Weeman has prepared a budget for next year if we wanted to switch from the mulching mowers to mowers with bags that would collect the grass clippings. And I plan to review that with my committee next week, and I only held that off because I still haven't gotten the budget information for the normal services, and I expect to get that this week. And the meeting that I will schedule for next week is supposed to be held Wednesday in the morning, and I will send out an invitation to all directors that might want to listen in on that meeting. The additional cost, if we add, well, I'm not finished. The additional cost, if we were to add catchers, will only increase the monthly assessment by $5 per manor per month. And right now, unless there's, let's say, some surprises in the budget, that should be easily handled. Brian just gave a report that showed that through 5 months, we've revenues have been in excess of expenses by
discuss it in the meeting manual. We need to move on. Okay, Carl, maintenance.
So the maintenance and construction, Cynthia pointed out certain things, and I want to update on those certain things because we just had a meeting on July 10th. With regard to the Shepherd's Crook fencing, there's a 30-foot section along Moulton Parkway that we've authorized them to start that work, and we're still basically set on doing about 300 feet of fence this year. But that 30 feet of fencing along Moulton Parkway needs to get done because it's a place where people have easy access to the community. Then the other thing is the fact that during this past meeting, we spoke about the need to restart the Pushmatic panel replacement program, as well as the waistline remediation program, as well as the painting program. With regard to painting and prior to paint, these programs will restart on August 3rd. I don't know how this governor's thing that just came out is going to impact that, but that's the plan. And as long as we can finalize some social distancing issues with our painters, which VMS is working on, so with regard to the Pushmatic panel replacement and the waistline remediation program, these programs require that workmen enter each of the units to do part of the work that is required. With this in mind, VMS has been asked to canvass the residents that are affected with this work and ask them if they are willing to have these workmen enter their homes for the period of time that will be necessary for them to do the work required. VMS will also inform the residents that the workmen will follow all the protocols necessary to ensure that the residents' safety is maintained with regard to COVID-19. If the residents provide they're okay, then we will restart those programs as the schedule permits. Our next meeting is August 26th, and there's a time change from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And if you want to see the meeting, go to Granicus and go to the weekly newsletter, and you'll see how to access Granicus. That's it, Madam Chair.
Okay, Netta?
We didn't have any meeting these days. The last one on March 12th, and next meeting is to be announced. But I put my email on the website, n.ardoni@yahoo.com, and I had few emails that our residents just described their problem and the issues, and we work on it, and most of them they solved. Thank you.
Okay, we're going on to the GRF ones, and I really want to go quickly here. Brian, Finance. Okay, there was no meeting last month. The next meeting is August 19th at 1:30. CAC, Juanita.
The big issue at the CAC meeting was whether or not we should get outdoor exercise equipment like some trails, et cetera, have. We had a presentation, but it was about $100,000, and a lot of people thought that was way too much. They have it in Mission Viejo. They had a group that went over and looked at how it was set up there. Any of you who drive along Ridge Route, there is the trail there, the exercise trail, and it has much more simplified equipment there. So Recreation is still looking into that. There is a subcommittee, a task force that is looking into that for CAC. And that was the main thing. They did pass the resolution to change the club fee for clubs under 25 members to reduce it. And our next meeting is July 9th. What? No, we've already gone through that.
August 13th at 1:30.
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong.
Okay. Landscape Committee, Manny?
Yes, the last meeting that we had was way back in February. Our next one is scheduled for August 12th. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Carl, Maintenance.
So on June 10th, we had a virtual meeting, and at that meeting, we discussed all the projects that we anticipate doing this year within the GRF purview. We also discussed the fact that the lighting in the parking lot and the maintenance services center, we still are working on that detail as to what type of lighting we're going to possibly put there. And we were also given a presentation on the walkway lighting that has been was installed back in May or maybe even April, on clubhouses 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the next GRF meeting is going to be held virtually, as far as I know, on August 12th at 9:30 a.m. And again, you can get that via Granicus.
Okay,
and
then
Performing Arts Center, that's really important because we just had that meeting yesterday. Performing Arts Center Ad Hoc Committee met yesterday on July 13th. At that meeting, the committee discussed where we go from here, since the project, as it had been anticipated to be done, with an approximate $5.3 million price tag, was voted down by the corporate members. At yesterday's meeting, we discussed breaking up the project into parts and reducing its scope. The preliminary plan is to prioritize the work such that we will do the safety items first and then address the rigging problems. With respect to HVAC systems, we have asked VMS to see about reducing the scope to permit just the replacement of the HVAC systems that are currently installed, since these units will be reaching their end of life within the next couple of years. There'll be a one-for-one replacement. That's the current thinking right now. And then we informed VMS that we need to stay within our budgets that was specifically strongly told to them, and try to obtain the biggest bang for our buck. And then we have not yet planned a follow-up meeting at this particular point in time.
Okay, Juanita, Media.
Media and Communications Committee met on June 15th. And as always, we went over numerous statistics as to broadband and the different contracts and stations that we get, et cetera. We also looked at the programming that has been really beefed up and enhanced for Channel 6 because of COVID-19. So many more people are watching our in-house, if you will, television station. And we had so many pages of what Media Communications department is doing. As we saw from the budget report, theirs is up, but they have been so busy getting the word out on so many different things for our community and really doing a super job. So I want to congratulate Eileen and her staff for keeping us all informed of everything that's going on. Our next meeting will be August 17th.
I'm reporting on the Mobility and Vehicles Committee, which hasn't met since February the 5th, 2020. However, we finally have a good scheduled meeting, we think, of August the 5th, 2020 at 1:30 in the afternoon, and that will be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Security? Netta?
Sorry. The last meeting was 24th of February. We didn't have after that, and the next meeting is supposed to be 24th of August, and is 1:30 virtual meeting. Thank you.
Traffic? Anything happening there?
Yes, I'm happy to report, although I'm sure you speeders out there won't be so happy, that the traffic committee has cranked up again. And we last met on June 17th, 2020, and that was the first time since February. Of the 12 people that were scheduled to show up, 2 didn't show, and of course when you schedule and don't show, you're guilty. And of the 10 who appeared, 9 were found guilty of the offense and will receive the proposed fine, and 1 was found guilty but received no fine. So bottom line on that was a 13 for 13 on guilty, but 1 person didn't have to pay the fine. Those offenses were parking on the sidewalk. That was the primary. Can't park on the sidewalk. 3 were speeding. 2 were failure to stop at a stop sign. 1 was reckless driving. It also involved blowing 2 stop signs and crossing a pedestrian's path. It was just insane. But it was just 1 reckless driving, 1 failure to have an overnight pass for a guest, and 1 with multiple RV lot violations. So it was pretty interesting, and the next traffic hearing committee will be held on July 15th, 2020. Thank you.
Disaster preparedness, Cash.
Well, the next meeting is on July 28th. There's no happenings, nothing happening. That's all.
Okay. I'm going to skip director's comments because of the time frame, and I'm going to recess this meeting until 12:30. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, but
All
I
right.
wanted to thank all those people that wrote in those nice letters. Thank you, members.
Okay,
Yes,
I'll see you back here at
Madam
12:30.
Chair, let's get the access
Thank
number.
you, members.
It's the same
Can we meet
access
a little bit later?
number.
I need to cook my own meal.
Yeah, you've got to be quick.
So I have the access number is
Access number.
147 424 917. Okay.
The same number.
Anthony is the same one. Anthony is the same one. You just click on the same link.
993.
Okay, I'm looking at something I got here from Grant. All right, I'll use the same one.
Okay,
Yeah, this is the same one.
let's go have lunch.